Hey there, Nick Gunitakis here. In this video, we're going to do a live coding style video where I'm going to be refactoring a whole bunch of Docker related files for a project I never looked at in my life. So this application happens to be using FastAPI. And while I am primarily a Python developer, I've never worked with FastAPI before. So if I were to build an API, typically I would reach for Flask and I would use something like Flask Classful as well as Marshmallow and do all that. But, FastAPI is gaining a lot of popularity. This is a project a friend and I are working on, and we figured now would be a great time to give FastAPI a shot because this application is not going to be, totally massive in scope. So yeah, it just seems like it could be fun to try out something new. But only things that were done so far with this project was she set up a baseline project off of some type of example GitHub repo that just pulled together FastAPI and Docker. It's not something that I created. She just cloned it down, added like an API endpoint, and this is where we are here. But I did very, very briefly look at the Dockerfile before this video, like a couple of days ago. And yeah, there were certain things in there where I was like, well, maybe we should just do a whole bunch of refactoring here around the Docker stuff. And since I was going to be doing that work anyways, I figured now would be a great time just to make a video around that. So the only thing I've done here off camera was I ran a docker-compose build. Only because, I just wanted to make sure all this worked really quickly here. I didn't want to have to cut the video immediately just to do the first build. But it does build. But I didn't even do a Docker-compose app once. I don't even know what this app looks like. So, this video is going to be like an exploration of just figuring things out as I go. And hopefully by the end of the video, I don't know, maybe you pick up a tip or trick or something along the way, right? If you find anything like that, let me know in the comments. But let's see here. Let's begin with doing a Docker-compose up just to see what things are working or not working apparently, which is pretty nice. But yeah, usually before I start doing any type of refactoring, right, I always like to make sure that everything is working before we go into the motions of changing around files. But yeah, it looks like we are getting a validation error here. And validation error for settings project name. First of all, I need a second tmux window here open because I want to have Vim open in window 1 and then composing in another window. But yeah, okay, so validation error for settings project name. Do we get a file? We don't get really a file. Okay, well, something with settings config. Okay, anyways, what I would do here at the beginnings would be I would just search for project name because that's like the thing that is throwing the validation error. So let me just open up Vim here and we will do a search for project name. Let's go proj. Okay. So yeah, this settings.project name is actually, I guess, using that. But then we have another config file here where we have the project name. So again, never worked with FastAPI, so I don't even really know what I'm looking at here. I do see that we are using type hints with Python here. Pretty interesting too, because that's not something I've really got into yet. So the syntax looks a little bit funky to me, not necessarily a bad way, just unfamiliar grounds. But I do see a couple settings here that are hard-coded, something like the API prefix and version. And I guess with the backend cores origins is this, I guess, like custom code to that. Okay, whatever. But project name looks to be unset. Okay, so what happens if you just set the project name to something like Slackbot? And can I up this here? I'm just going to do it in a second window. Same-ish type of error. Okay, validation error for settings project name. Okay, why does that happen when it's set in the same way as the others? Okay, I'm just reverting things back to their original state, by the way. Am I recording? I am recording. Cool. But okay, so class config. And then we have case sensitive true, find env file. Interesting, okay? So in the env file, we have an empty file. Maybe this thing is just looking for all these configuration values to exist in an env file. I'm gonna do that to begin with. So project name, let's go with Slackbot. Now can we up it? Maybe, okay. Interesting that Limbic is running too. That means there's probably going to be like an entry point somewhere. And Limbic, by the way, is database migrations, really popular tool if you're using SQL Alchemy. But okay, it looks like things are starting and we are listening on 0000, blah, 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 port 8000. Okay, so can I actually go to localhost port 8000? All right, returns JSON not found 404. Probably isn't a route set up for that. Great. But it looks like everything at the baseline is working. So now I am going to explore a little bit of this application before we get to the motions of actually looking into the Docker stuff and potentially replacing some things. But because I like to be a little bit familiar with what I'm even working with, right? So we've got this core here, config, and we have API, and we have routes. So What is this? This looks a little familiar to something like a Flask blueprint. This include router type of thing. Don't know what this really means from FastAPI's point of view, but tags, I don't know what that is. Prefix deployment. Okay, so maybe this is like a URL prefix with a blueprint, so /deployment. But then if we go back to that config file we had, there are these hard-coded things as well. So like /API v1, okay? So probably going to be /API /v1, and then was it deployments or something? Not found. Maybe deployment. Method not allowed. Okay, so yeah, it's an API, so probably doesn't expect a GET request or something like that. I don't know. Let's go back to that one file. The other one. No, there was another one. This one. Deploy shortcuts, tags. Okay, so this is where the route is defined. Async also, interesting stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm a synchronous type of guy, but we'll see. But rather that post. Okay, so it's a post request. Can't do a post request from the browser directly. Let's drop into curl and check it out. So if I curl localhost port 8000 API v1 deployment, yeah, okay, no response, right? But then we make that a post request with some like dummy data or something. We also get nothing back at all. Absolutely nothing back, not even a response. Is the endpoint even being hit? Making a post request, oh, getting a 307, okay. Trailing slash, always a trailing slash. Seems to be an issue with every web framework. There we go, hello world. Curious if this works without the empty body. Also works, cool, okay. Yeah, so we made our post request for the API, we get back a hello world, we jump back to the code base, and that is the expected response. So that is all working good. The application is working. I don't think there's anything else here. Some tests and whatnot, totally empty. Yeah, so there's the baseline. There is the application working. Now there's some things I'd like to maybe very quickly dive into, like what happens if I just comment those out and then like does the web server crash if I make another API request? Actually seems to work. Interesting. So maybe I'll just like, let me just down and up it because I don't even know if volumes are set up, but maybe I should rebuild things. But yeah, let's see what this even happens. Hello world. Maybe there's no volumes. That'd be interesting. Well, I can test that even easier. So if I bring this up here and I go to deploy shortcuts, hello world, let me just pop in like a whole bunch of exclamation points. Do we get them back? Wow, okay, so there's no volumes at all with this default application. That's a little bit weird. That means we need to rebuild things to get a change, which is sort of kind of tedious, I guess you can say. But let's see where we're at, first of all. Will it even run? No, now we're back to like these errors, like validation ones or whatever. Okay, API prefix. Okay, it's not a big deal. Maybe I just want to see like why are they hard-coded here and not in the env file? Like, I don't know what, like, do all values in this env file end up being configuration options by default? I'm not sure. But if I go to the env file and I paste those things in there, like, will this work? I mean, let's see. I don't want to waste a ton of time on FastAPI stuff, but I feel like this is going to be an important thing. Like, I want everything loaded from environment variables that may change. So this is like things I would be doing no matter what, even as part of like a refactoring with Docker stuff. So, because you got to understand how the app is configured before you can start doing things, but it doesn't seem to like that at all, okay? Well, it doesn't care about the environment variables, it cares about that. I don't know why those need to be hard-coded there, but okay, I'm going to leave them like that and just make sure I can rebuild and then up, and then it's off to refactoring. Also kind of curious why the volumes aren't working, but maybe that's like just something else. Okay, what is going on here? Pre-start, app pre-start. So that's kind of interesting, like the compose entry point, I mean a Docker entry point, but I don't even see a pre-start here. Is there even like a pre-start? All right, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Where to begin? Beginnings would be one, or things even, well, yeah, let's just go with the Dockerfile. Okay. Upgrading pip, copying in requirements text into app. Is app the worker, but it's not set anywhere? Kind of super interesting that it's using this as the base image and not something just like using Python as a base image. That's something I would like to change because, yeah, there's things in this file I'm not super happy about, right? It's like, why are we using this non-official like web server base image, I don't know. Like uvicorn is, I know, just from basic general Python knowledge, right, an alternative to gunicorn that's like async friendly and all this other stuff. And I guess FastAPI uses that. But one thing I would like to do is completely gut that, use my own Dockerfile. But before I do that, I actually want to see what this even is, because like, is this going to come with the entry point that we saw, like to do this like pre-stuff? Like, I really have no idea. But when I don't have an idea, I look it up. So hub.docker.com. Yeah, I don't want to sign up because I'm in Firefox now. But what am I searching for? Well, maybe I'll just search for Tiangolo, whatever. Okay, so it's the top one, uvicorn, gunicorn, FastAPI. Let me make sure that's right. Uvicorn, gunicorn, FastAPI. Also have no idea how to pronounce that. If I'm saying it wrong, let me know in the comments below. But let's see, okay. So this is the image that we're dealing with. Updated 2 months ago, works with Python 3.6, okay, or above. And we got a couple different ones. So Python 8 latest. Feels like that's the one we're using here, right? Python 8, okay. Or 3.8, I should say. Okay, great. Source repository, that's what I wanted to see, because then we can take a look here at the code. And if I look at the code, I don't see any Docker files yet, but maybe it's in Docker images. What's an app, by the way? Just before I go into Docker files. Okay, whatever. Example application. But there's the Python 8 or 3.8 Docker file, and all this one does is references another base image and then just installs FastAPI. Not a big fan of that pattern, because I feel like if I were to be installing FastAPI, one, it would be in my requirements text with all my other dependencies. Two, it is going to be version locked to an exact image, because this, if you rebuilt this today and you rebuilt it like 6 months from now, you're going to get a different version of FastAPI. But I'm not liking that. But let's see what this other base image does, because this just seems to be like installing FastAPI, then copying some stuff. So if I go to this person's GitHub repo, maybe we'll find, that's some mustache, by the way. Let's see, what am I looking for? Uvicorn, gunicorn. This is now going to be, I know, one of those videos where it's going to be hard to pronounce all these things. Okay, it's this one, I guess. Okay, same type of pattern, but different. Okay, what's in the app there? Okay, there's pre-start and main. Cool, at least now we understand, like, we're remapping how this stuff even happens, right? This pre-start stuff, because yeah, I didn't even know where that was coming from before. But when you're doing refactoring, it's like you also don't want to necessarily remove functionality that might be important. But we're dealing with what? We were dealing with Python, this one probably. My nose is itching. But yeah, what are we dealing with here? We are dealing with Python base image, great. Again, like, not a big fan of installing dependencies like this. I understand, like, it's a base image, right? Because it's not going to be in a requirements, a text or something. So dependency has to get in there somehow. But yeah, so we got start, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm seeing all of this and not a fan, like, especially with this pre-start stuff. Like, yeah, when it comes to things like running database migrations in essentially a Docker entry point, like the thing that is going to happen every time you start your container, I don't like that pattern at all, because I feel like that should be a responsibility of something that's higher level than like your actual application. So for example, if you were to be running this application on, I don't know, like a Kubernetes cluster, and there's like 8 of them running, right? This thing is going to start on all 8 of those containers every time they start, and suddenly you're going to be running this command 8 times. Now, Alembic, and if you're using like Rails, like, you know, their database migration tools should be idempotent, and they should like correctly make table locks, and like they shouldn't like step over each other's feet. But that's like you're in a very dangerous territory if you're depending on your library, like Alembic or whatever, to handle that stuff. It's also like the sleep there. I don't know, just I don't want to call out this person's stuff, right? Like, but to me, if like my own personal beliefs around best practices, I don't like that. So I think this might just be easier if we just start from ground zero and just make a new Docker file. But I'm not going to be making it from ground zero in the sense that like live coding it, because I actually have another example application here for Flask that has, and there's a Django one as well. By the way, these were both topics in my DockerCon video from a couple months ago, which I'll leave a card to in case you missed that one. But, you know, this repo here has an example Docker file ready to go. That video also covers all sorts of details about this. But yeah, so what I'd like to do is just grab my regular official base image. And when I say my, it's from the Docker Hub. I didn't make this, but like we're going to grab all this stuff and bring it in and then also make some changes along the way because this application happens to be using Webpack. That's why there's another stage here. But our Slack bot is not going to be using Webpack. So I can just go here, copy this whole entire Docker file, bring it over here, paste it down here. Let's see, is there actually anything from here that I want? Requirements, that text, blah, blah, blah. Well, we could take a look at the requirements text there in a minute, but yeah, there's nothing here that I don't know, like I feel is necessary to even keep around. Like Python path, I've got that set down here. The port stuff doesn't matter. Don't like setting that here. Okay, cool. So destroying their entire Docker file, done. Now, what else needs to change from here? Well, I still like continuing to run things as an root user. That bin directory, we don't have a bin directory. Gonna have to copy that over. Yes, installing pip install there. Probably don't need anything to do with Flask env, but maybe there's also like a FastAPI env, so I'll keep it there for now. Flask app, that's probably gonna change to something else. Yeah, the Webpack, that's the line I was looking for. It goes away. Also not doing certain things in production here around digesting assets because, again, don't have assets. Also, probably not going to be running gunicorn. I guess we're going to be running uvicorn. Haven't used that firsthand, but I wonder if it's going to be similar in the sense that we can just do like uvicorn, pass in a config file, and then just run it and hopefully be good to go. But yeah, I do need to bring over a bin folder there. So for this one, I'm going to, let's see, go into here, copy recursively my bin folder to the source GitHub Slackbot directory. And now we have hopefully a bin file. Did that copy them with the correct file permissions? It's a good question. I don't know. Let's go into the bin file and just see. Yeah, they're all executable. Nice. Cool. So that is all good to go there. Probably could potentially build this now, but can't do this though, because we're not going to be running gunicorn. Now, I know there's multiple ways to install gunicorn or uvicorn or whatever. I think gunicorn has like a worker type or a thread type or whatever for it, but you can also install uvicorn directly, like pip install uvicorn. So I don't know, like what do the requirements say? Okay, so it's directly here. And then we have, yeah, okay. I feel like there's like a spider in my nose, but there's not. But okay, before we start building things, I want to see if there's newer versions of any of this stuff. So let's go to, yeah, there's, I don't know, I'm getting attacked by things that are like invisible. But let me go to pypy.org. And what am I searching for? FastAPI. Okay, so 068. So let's change that to be 068. Uvicorn is 012.2. Let's see if there's a new version of that. Uvicorn 0.14, great. So let's just bring that to there. Oh. And then Pydantic 1.82. Pydantic. Yes, 1.82. Great, that doesn't change. And then Starlet 14.2. Okay, Starlet, that is 0.16. Okay, so let's just see where we're at here. Yeah, let's kill that. And let me go back to my Docker file. I'm just going to comment out this CMD for now. Whoop, comment out CMD, I'll just run bash or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna rebuild things and just see what happens here. Shouldn't take too long to build because there's only a couple of dependencies here. But yeah, installing them now. Okay, cool, totally melted down. My God, I've never itched that much on video my whole entire life. But yeah, let's see. Starlet 16 doesn't work. Why? Because FastAPI depends on Starlet 14.2. Well, not much I can do about that one other than go back to here and bring this back down to 14.2 and then rebuild. And hopefully we get past that. Because I mean, if one library requires another version of something, there's not really that much you can do about it, right? But now things look to be installing more progress, at least all the dependencies of dependencies, and everything is nice. Cool. So things built, which is nice, but there's still other things I'd like to carry over because I noticed too, in the sidebar here, we are missing a dockerignore file. I also have no idea what's in this gitignore. This looks like one of those like gitignore IO type of things, but I already have a good Python gitignore. So let me go back to here and we'll go into gitignore here. I'm just going to grab that whole entire gitignore. Gonna actually, what am I doing? Okay. Actually, hold on. delete to bottom of file. Okay, and then copy this whole entire thing. Okay, and then paste it in. There we go. Gitignore. Probably a better way to do that. I was trying to hit a different hotkey, but I was fumbling around. But I do need to make a dockerignore file also. And we'll go into here, into this dockerignore, grab that whole thing, dockerignore over here, paste that in. Cool. Webpack stuff goes away. PyCache stays. Assets go away. Public go away. Celery. Not using celery at the moment, but might. So probably we'll keep that. Not going to be using an override file. This is actually covered in that video from the before in the card, but the override file for here is just for loading up Webpack and stuff. And we're not using Webpack here, so there's no reason to keep that one there. But Git and all this other stuff looks pretty good. What else? What does this compose YAML file look like? Also, would rather have that to be YAML with no A, but let's see. Okay, well, this is their YAML file, by the way, from that one example project, which, by the way, yeah, it's this. But let me go here. Link, okay, manage, what was it called? Manage FastAPI GitHub. The link, I guess, in the README is busted. But yeah, this is the example app that was used to make this project. Yeah, I wasn't involved in picking that, just saying. No, like no offense to Lexi out there who did that. Because it's probably fine, right? Like you got to get up and running, especially she's not like super hardcore into Python and stuff. So yep, nice. So this thing is totally working. Well, this was working as it was, but this is the thing that we are basically completely changing. But now, are we at a point where we need to change the docker-compose YAML file? I think we are. So I'm going to go into my compose file here and just grab the whole entire thing. Jump back over here where we were going before, down here, cool, paste that in. Is there anything here that we need? Well, we don't need to define a version anymore because we can just use the new compose spec setup, which has been around for quite some time. Port 8000, 8000, not a big fan of hard coding the ports there, by the way. Also went into detail about that in that DockerCon video. But the TLDR here is I much prefer to use 127001 because if you were to run this application on something like a VPS and use 8000:8000 and you didn't set up something like AWS security groups or a cloud firewall with DigitalOcean or whatever, then the outside world would be able to connect directly to your port 8000. Now, chances are, if you're running any type of web application, at least with Python, you will likely put something like Nginx or another web server in front of that and use that as a reverse proxy. And Nginx will be configured with, SSL certs and all this other stuff. Like, you would never be accessing gunicorn or uvicorn directly from the internet. Well, not with gunicorn, maybe uvicorn, I don't know. But in any case, when you do the 127001 and you run Nginx directly on your VPS, then only Nginx will be able to connect to the service, not the entire internet, because Nginx is running on localhost. So yeah, I like to do that. And then I like to have it in an environment variable because then in development, you might want to use 8000:8000 because, this way you can check your application out on your dev box, like the same host that we're running things on here. But if you also have like a laptop or, a mobile phone or an iPad or something, you want to be able to check that out from any device on your local network, not just localhost. So yeah, but what that means here is, yeah, all of this stuff from their file goes away totally. And, this application here, we're not using Postgres or Redis at the moment, but one thing that I like to do is, we probably will be using both of them in the end, but we don't need them like right now on day one. So instead of like just deleting these lines, I will just comment them out because when it comes to later on, when you want to enable them, just uncommenting that is so much easier than like, one, writing this out by hand, or two, just like copy pasting it from, a different repo. Like, why? So there's another reference down here. Okay, cool. Yeah, so node stuff goes away. Maybe I'll put a counter up. How many times did Nick itch his nose? But yeah, public directory goes away also because it's no longer a public directory here, right? 0 assets. It's backend for a Slack bot. So Slack is actually being the whole front end here. Okay, so there's all that set up. This looks pretty good. Let's see, worker, again, like celery, not quite using it right now, but we will keep it around. Everything else looks pretty good. This probably going to fail with a 404 because that up endpoint didn't exist. But everything else looks pretty good, I think. Okay, so are we actually ready to do a new build? I think we might be with our new compose file and our new everything. And it built, okay? Oh, there's one other thing too, really important, right? So in our env file here, these go away, but we need to go into this env file. I'm going to copy everything, bring that down here. Okay, just so I know that this needs to stay here above here. But yeah, what are we dealing with now? It's not hello Flask. That's going to be Slack bot. Python bytecode, true, fine, good. Secret key. Does FastAPI actually have the concept of a secret key? Literally no idea. So let me see what's going on here. 26-minute video. It's going to be a long one. FastAPI, secret key, security info. Okay. Let's see. Security info, many ways to handle security. Okay. Is there an environment variable with a secret key? Just doing search for secret. No results found. Okay. In a hurry? Well, sort of, but if you don't care about these terms, yeah. So is there no secret key? So does that mean, like, how would you sign sessions and cookies and stuff and other stuff? No? Okay. Well, for now, I'm just going to leave it because there's got to be some form of that somewhere. Maybe it's like configured in a different way. Not going to be node stuff. Does Flask or does FastAPI have the idea of like a FastAPI env? Good question. I don't know. Let's see. FastAPI dev versus prod setting or something. Settings and environment variables. Environment variables, also known as envar. Yes. My name, Wade Wilson. Okay. Is there anything like _dev, _dev? No. _prod? No. Nothing. Okay. So how do you differentiate between dev and prod? Is it just a different config file? Because I'm super used to having one config file and then just using environment variables to differentiate dev versus prod or any other environment. In my opinion, again, right? Like super anti-pattern to have multiple config files for each environment. If you're just tweaking things that are going to be changing between environments. But I mean, there's some cases where individual config files actually is pretty good if you have a whole bunch of settings that are not going to be changing, but they're always the same in dev, always the same in prod, and they're not secrets. That's fine. But like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing any way to set that. So again, I'm going to bypass on that because again, like I just don't want to not waste time, but deal with it when we actually need to deal with it. But here we have like server name, localhost port 8000. Don't know how that's going to integrate yet. Like maybe there's a uvicorn config file where we can set stuff like this up. Likewise with the port and web concurrency. I don't know if that's even going to be a thing with uvicorn, but again, I'm going to leave that for now. Same thing with web reload, also as a gunicorn setting to handle code reloading and development. Don't know. Postgres, not using it. However, Webpack Watcher stuff can go away. But I was going to say, however, since we are eventually probably going to be using Postgres, just going to leave it there. Could comment it out, not a big deal. Just having two environment variables ready to go in your container is not going to make any difference whatsoever in the end. Using that logic, that also means Redis and Celery, same deal. I'm just going to leave it like that. And then there's also Docker restart policy, no. Health check, been true, great. Again, sort of rushing over this because like I really went into detail about this stuff in my DockerCon video for some of this stuff. But yeah, there's the web forward that we want 8000 in dev, and there's our volume. So the volume is going to be in there. Actually, speaking of volumes, was there even a volume in this example app here? So where is the compose.yml file? Manage FastAPI? No? It's not worth it to go and like unwind everything. But I don't think there was even a volume line in there. I don't think. Well, not important, but in any case, this env file is ready to go. So let's just rebuild with the new env file just to get correctly named images and stuff. Nice. So I'm not going to be able to up that, I don't think. Didn't I mess around with the compose file? Or here, yeah, so it's going to be bash. Well, I just want to see what happens. Creating Slack bot, there we go, nice. Cannot stat public directory no such file or directory. Why? Oh, okay, so the entry point. Yeah, so this is normally if you wanted to have something start, when a container starts, you'd have an entry point file. And then in my case, I have them here. The rename project actually that we copied over before, totally related to the Flask example app, just to be able to easily rename stuff, not necessary here. This file stays here because this allows us to actually have lock files with our requirements.txt file, which is really nice. But this entry point here is going to be a nuisance because it's looking for things in a certain directory that don't exist, right? So we're not dealing with Webpack assets anymore. And then that means, well, I don't know what's going on with Fern here, why there's like two of them open now. That happens from time to time. But yeah, this entry point now is essentially blank. We could delete the file and delete the entry point reference from the Dockerfile, but I'm going to leave it here just in case we decide to ever do something at the start of a container. Because using the same philosophy as before, it's way easier to go in here and do something than like recreate these things from scratch. But it's not really doing any harm right now. But again, these are like optimizations I can make later. But with this file saved here, now I should be able to, well, actually I'm going to need to rebuild because the entry point changed. Let's see. Cool. Reinstalling dependencies, blah, 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 blah. Because that file happens to be changed before dependencies are installed. Actually, no, I don't know why that rebuilt. Okay, whatever. But let's see if this actually runs now. Like, just do nothing, basically. Because we don't have the web server command, because now we need to run the uvicorn web server. Now, what does that mean? Can I actually exec into this now? I don't know. Docker-compose exec web dash. Nice. Okay, so we are in the application, also running as the Python user, not the root user. That's also an advantage of the Dockerfile I had here versus the other one, which as far as I think was running as a root user, but don't quote me on that one. That was in some of these examples here. And I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I don't see a user directive here or instruction anywhere. So it was running as the root user before. Not so good. But yeah, okay, so we're inside the application. Now, with Docker, it becomes a little, whoa, what happened there? Accidental wrong hotkey. With Docker, it becomes a little bit of an annoyance, right? If you have to come into here, like make a change to this file, build it, did it run? Make a change to the file, build it, did it run? Like with normal volumes, like application level changes, volumes fix that. But with the CMD, it's like, well, you got to go through that process. So usually when I'm dealing with any type of project, like a new one, I'm like trying to iterate on it quickly, I'll actually do this where I'll just go and run bash here as the command and then exec into the container and then get my CMD running work correctly and then move it into the Dockerfile when I'm done. Because now it's like we need to run the uvicorn server, right? And it's like pip installed, right, from our requirements.txt file here. But I have absolutely no idea how to run a uvicorn server at all. Can you just run it? Like, okay, you need options. So like we can go through the motions here and just like dash help and figure out everything here. But yeah, it's probably easier just to look at their docs, right? So I'm going to go to, where am I going? Well, I need to go to FastAPI docs. I would imagine like FastAPI's docs will have some good info. Let's see. So languages, features, FastAPI, Python tutorials. Yes. First steps, intro. Okay, intro it is. Run the code. So what do we need to do? We need to make a main.py file, and then you start uvicorn with main, and then guessing there's an app function, very similar to how Flask works with gunicorn, where if I go back to the Dockerfile here, gunicorn, we pass in a config file. Where's the config file? Well, it is in config.gunicorn.py, and then what do we want to do? Well, we actually want to run we have a hello directory with an app file running a create app function. And that all matches here with this directory layout here because we have hello there and there's an app.py. And then somewhere on the bottom, I don't know where it is, create function. Yeah, create app function. So I guess FastAPI and uvicorn work very similarly. But in our case, the directory structure is a little bit different because we don't have a main.py in the root of the directory. We have, what do we have? We have an app directory and then a main.py. And then in the main.py, we have a get application. And then the get application is called with app equals like that. So, okay, that's closer to their examples here, but it's going to be, well, I don't know where this is coming from, this app. So we need to get there first. But install FastAPI. Okay. Advanced guide, first steps. Okay. So here is their example main.py file. And there is their app, just like ours. But instead of just calling FastAPI like this, like instant, making an instance of this like that, then we're just doing this get application function, which is doing that, but then it's also doing this other stuff. So even though I don't know FastAPI, this is very familiar. Like this is like the application factory pattern with Flask, but for FastAPI, I guess. But at the end of the day, we get an app back and then we do that. So in our case, our uvicorn server should be something like, I don't even know, right? Uvicorn. It's going to be so hard to keep pronouncing that correctly, but okay. What do we need to do though? I'm going to copy paste that just so I have that here. But in our case, it is not a main.py file because ours is in the app directory. So if we do app.main file, And then in the main file, we have the app thing. And then we also want to do reload because code reloading and development. But hopefully all of this can be abstracted away out into a uvicorn config file. So then we don't need to start passing all millions of different flags here on the command line, because then it gets very tricky to like differentiate these commands in dev versus prod, because we want to run the same uvicorn command, just like we are here in the Dockerfile. This unicorn command is run literally the same exact way in dev and prod and any other environment, because all the settings are in the config, and in that config, there's environment variables. So, if going back to this env file real quick here, like if I want to have code reloading, like -- reload with gunicorn, all I do is set that to true or false. Like in dev, I want it sure, but in production, it defaults to false. And if I actually jump into my gunicorn config file here, we can see how this environment variable makes its way into its config, and then the config gets passed to gunicorn in the command line, and life is amazing. And now we have no duplication, and everything works great. So I would imagine the same thing is going to happen with uvicorn. But before we get there, I just want to see the base case work, which is app.main app function here with reloading. Does it actually work? No, it doesn't work. Of course not, because why would it ever work in the first shot? But it also looks like it's running, yeah, localhost 40,000. That looks good. Settings, env settings.py, python.env is not installed. Run pip install pydantic.env. Little bit weird to see that, because why does pydantic care that .env is installed or not when the environment variables are actually accessible, right? Because if I run an env here, all those environment variables that we have set, like Python path is there, Docker restart policy, no, like all of them are here, because in our compose.yml file, we are passing in the .env file, and the .env file is here. So every environment variable in this file is available in our running container. This one doesn't have export, that's fine. I like putting export because then you can source this file from a different file, like if you had a run script, which I don't think that's going to happen in this video, but I have made videos about that in the past. I will link to that one in the card. But what are we at also? 38 minutes, okay. Yeah, so why is this thing complaining about not having .env when I don't need .env, because it's like, they're there, they're right there. Okay, so it's core config.py, okay. Config.py. It's this thing, whatever. env file is the env. What would happen if I just like commented that out? That'd be kind of cool. What am I doing? Okay. Does that work now? Whoa. That actually worked. I don't know if those environment variables even have an effect, but I'll take it, right? Let's see. What am I doing now? I'm curling this to see if this works. Empty reply from server. Empty reply from server. Any difference in the browser? Method not allowed. Connection was reset. Got it. Okay. This is such a funny thing with Docker. And the only reason I got it that fast, because I would imagine, like, I remember back in the day, this would be like, oh my God, what's not working? And then like 4 hours later, oh my God, now it works. It's because the web server is listening on localhost 40,000, but this is running inside of the container, but I'm curling from outside the container. So basically this 127.0.0.1 needs to be 0.0.0.0. And I don't know what's going on with this person set up here, but maybe they have that flag set somewhere, yeah, to where it may potentially work. But what that means is we need to set a custom host here for uvicorn. Now, if it's like gunicorn, I think you can just do host like this. Okay, there it's listening on the correct bind address there. Things are working, okay. Now, can I actually post that? Hey, hello world. Everything is working great. Sort of. Okay. I'm still not sure about that environment variables though, and I don't even know how to even check that. Like, what would I need to do? Oh, okay. So if I can, how was I using that project name before in a different file? Okay. So it seems like if you import settings, then you can do .project name, And then, I don't know, that like does something with this, right? Like the title of the page or something. I have no idea. But if I go to the endpoint here for this, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can paste that in there. Oh my God. Easy Vim. And if I do settings, that project name instead of the string, and I curl that, I get Slackbot back. Okay. I'm not used to things working that fast, but did that actually work? If I go to my env file now and change that to be Slackbot2, now, just due to limitations of Docker, I can't just do that and expect that to work. Like I'll have to restart the container to get the new environment variables into the process, which is running in the container. So if I up this and we get Slackbot2 back, then that line that I commented out in the config probably doesn't need to exist anymore. That'd be kind of sweet because yeah, the .env stuff, totally not necessary. But things are running like this. Oh yeah, I ran uvicorn directly, right? Instead of, I lost my command. There it is. Okay. Should build that into the image, but okay. So this is running. Cool. Now the moment of truth. If I hit this and we get back Slackbot2222, then amazing. That's really good outcome because that means that we can go into this config file now and just delete that line. Nice. Cool. Deleting is good. Yeah. So that works like that. Next step would be, well, does volumes work? Okay, it's a good thing to know if it works or not. And the way to test that would be, we'll go back to here. It's going to change that to be just like whatever, right? Like, hey, hello. It's going to say, hey, but then it turned it into a hello, and that's how you get hello. But yeah, hello, great. So our volumes work. Volumes are working. Why? Because in our compose file here, we've got this volume set up to be all good to go. In prod, probably not going to be volume mounted in anything, but yeah, so maybe this actually should default to, instead of ./app, it'll just be like, it needs to be something. It can't just be an empty thing because we want this to work in both dev and prod, and Docker won't allow us to have like one item in this volumes list in dev, but none of them in prod or whatever. So maybe we can just volume mount the current directory to temp. I do this once in a while because it's basically like making the volume mount not do anything. So in the other application, it was just a public directory because we would be using Nginx to serve our assets directly, and Nginx needs the ability to read that public directory. But in this case, yeah, it doesn't matter. So I like that change there. But yeah, so the next step now would be, actually, I probably should have did all this on a different branch, but I'll worry about that when I'm actually ready to commit and push this up. Okay, so what am I doing? Well, it would be nice to like move this ad hoc command stuff into the Docker file itself, but I don't like the idea of setting 8 billion flags here because, going back to here, there's a lot of different things I'd want to set config option wise when it comes to configuring my web server like uvicorn or whatever, because there's things like the bind address and logging to standard out and like log formats and workers and threads and reloading and potentially more, right? Like I don't want to have to set like 35 million flags in the command line. But more importantly, right, I don't want to have to set them differently in dev versus prod because that means running different commands in dev versus prod. And I don't like that. So next thing on the agenda would be uvicorn config file options. And let's see, settings, config, whatever. Okay, run, uvicorn run, equivalent arguments. If you're following options to configure uvicorn, when running from the command line, run it from manually, should put uvicorn into class in the main. Does that mean I'm gonna have to, I don't know. Application, okay. To run, okay, factory, yes, socket binding. Okay, so these are basically all the options you can set, but these are all, looks like command line flags to me, right? I guess it wouldn't be a bad idea to see what's even available. So we don't need to mess with that. Unix, nope. No, well, yeah, this one, but not the reloader. So we already know the directory we want to do. Production workers. Okay, I don't even know enough about uvicorn to know if it has the idea of workers in a similar way to gunicorn, but it does look like web concurrency environment variable if available or one. So this web concurrency is a good naming convention that, I think Heroku uses that one anyways, but it's good to see that uvicorn uses that because we have that as well. So we don't need to ever set that no matter what, because this environment variable is going to be good. Now, logging, we want to log to standard out, but is there any searching here for standard out? Nope, there is not. Okay. Logging, okay. Log config, blah, 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 blah. So how do we even log to standard out? Can we just do log config dash, just like gunicorn and every other Unix tool? I don't know, but we're sidetracking now a little bit because I wanted to see where this config file is. But what else are we here? Loop, event, loop implementation. Yeah, default sounds about good for this one because I don't know enough about that. Implementation-wise, same thing with this. WebSocket protocol, again, max size stuff, yeah, I don't know. Root path headers, blah, blah, blah. SSL, no thank you. We'll be doing that with Nginx or load balancer or whatever. Resource limits, could be interesting. Definitely want to be able to set those things and timeout, cool. But I see nothing to do with config files. So what am I doing? Google.com. Then I'm going to search for uvicorn. Uvicorn config file example. Add example of logging config file. Okay. In the docs, okay. I don't see any. Wait, it has a YAML config? I mean, huh, okay, that's kind of cool. Where do you put that config though? Wait, was that even, that was configuring the logger itself, not configuring uvicorn itself. Okay, uvicorn config file instead of flags. Example of logging config, can we exclude, blah, blah, blah. So I know with gunicorn, there is a way to run uvicorn as like a worker type instead of actually using uvicorn directly. So that would allow you to technically use a gunicorn config file, but with a uvicorn thread type or whatever. That may be an option that will allow us to use a config file, but then also still be using uvicorn under the hood. So I wonder if that's what these folks did here for this one. Because, this one, that example app or whatever we looked at before, wherever it was, this one, like it worked out of the box. Like I didn't need to like explicitly set 0000 as the host for uvicorn. But yeah, there's a lot of like, what is this? Config. What if I do a search for gunicorn, maybe? Where's search? Oh, it's here. I'm not signed in. Gunicorn. Code. No, okay. That is not helping. What do I need to do then? Well, do I want to make a gunicorn config and use uvicorn as a thread type, or continue using uvicorn with no config file? But if I go back to the code here and I don't do any config file, this is going to become like a serious mess because, yeah, we can't just drop this. Oh, a lot of empty spaces. Well, that's okay. 2 spaces is good. Where's this Dockerfile? Well, whatever. Dockerfile. Yeah. So like this pattern just not sustainable because there's going to be a number of config options, and this is going to apply to both dev and prod. And could hack around that technically. I guess like in a compose file, there could be a command here, and this command could then define the arguments there as an environment variable, and then the environment variable could be set in the env file, but then it's like you're combining like 5 different settings in one environment variable, which is awful. So I don't know what the best course of action for that is going to be. So yeah, where was the other second example repo we had here? Okay. That was, I'm seeing if there's an example somewhere of using, no, was it this one? No, this one. No, that's what we were just looking at, right? I'm just seeing if he has an example of using gunicorn together with uvicorn without using uvicorn directly. Get a repo, this one. No, I'm in a loop. Yeah, and that's something I say to myself a lot. Like when I find myself like just going nowhere, it's like, I'm in a loop. Like, how do I escape the loop? What do I really need to do? So I need to run gunicorn, uvicorn worker. And this was like independent knowledge, like not related to FastAPI. I've researched this a little bit before, but, okay. As a general rule, and we're in the uvicorn directory or documentation, it says run gunicorn k uvicorn worker type. Okay. That's really good actually, because, and actually, you know what? You could just do search here for config. Maybe there's like a config flag, right? So env file, no, that's not it. Log config, also not it. Yeah, no other flags with config in the file name. So yeah, we're going to be stuck with using gunicorn, but also running programmatically. You can run it like this, where you can like read in from an environment variable there, no problem. Like that's also an interesting thing, but then it's like, that can't be the CMD unless the CMD ran like this, like Python 3 dot slash, like, well, whatever, example.py. No. Gunicorn is probably the simplest way to run and manage your processing. Great. This is what I want. Wait, now it's like you need to pass uvicorn config arguments to gunicorn workers. Then you'll have to subclass the uvicorn worker. So it's starting to get complicated now. Okay. When things are complicated, you break them down into the most basic case. This is like end game, final boss, like whatever. Right now, what we need to do is, can I get gunicorn to run everything using a gunicorn config file with this like worker type thing being set? Also, what the heck is an H11 worker? To run PyPy, no, not using that. Okay, so it's this. But then I can do the -c and put in the config file and everything works. But and then the config file will have that set. Because if you go to gunicorn, yeah, I got rid of searching in my URL bar because I didn't want things to be looked up. But okay, gunicorn workers, no, workers, no, it's type config. Okay, great, it's here. If I do a search for uvicorn, no, interesting. What is it called? Is it, I know that's super small. The sidebar is crazy small. Worker processes, yeah. Worker, is it worker type? I thought it would be here. Is it not really here with uvicorn? Okay, well, okay. Let me just Google then. Google gunicorn install uvicorn. I'm seeing if there's like a pip install instruction I can do. Pip install uvicorn there. Maybe it's as simple as that. Like, but gunicorn is not going to be installed, is it? Like if, I didn't mean to kill that. Boo. I'm going to need to go back to my Dockerfile. I know this is like probably boring now, but this is like the real debugging process, right? Let me just up this again. I just want to see if I can run, like, does installing uvicorn actually install gunicorn? That's where I'm going for now. So can I actually run gunicorn here? Gunicorn, I cannot. So, yeah. What am I doing then? Okay. Gunicorn, pip install gunicorn. Is it like like something like that? Whatever, I'm just going to read a random blog post, see if this is right. Okay. Doing a search for pip. That's really all I care about. I want to pip install something. No, because I don't want to do this on the command line. But how do they install gunicorn then? I mean, is it just gunicorn? But how would it know, like if you're setting the uvicorn worker type, like I would imagine uvicorn needs to be installed. So can it, maybe it's just as simple. Sometimes it's like you just do it, and then if it doesn't work, then you react. So gunicorn, I don't even know what the version is that I want, but okay, 2101, great. Maybe I just do this, call it a day, and maybe this will work. Let's see. All right, cool, build. And now instead of running uvicorn directly, I'm going to try running gunicorn with no config, just like a couple random, well, I'm going to use command line values just to see if it works, and then I can drop in a config file and we're done, hopefully. But yeah, let's see. Will this work? Compose up. Nope. What am I doing? I gotta up it. Yeah. And then I will exec this one here. Okay, so now I've got gunicorn. Do I? I do. So host 0000, we know we need that. We want reloading, sure. What else did I set? Yeah, I need to go back to my compose file. We want to be able to do, Dockerfile, basically this, but in the other format. So it's going to be this, but I know gunicorn's a little picky with naming conventions in that regard. So very, very unlikely that this is going to work exactly the same, but let's just see where this gets us. Can it even start? Unrecognized arguments host. Really? Maybe it needs to be at the ends. I don't think so though. That wouldn't matter at all in the slightest, I don't think. Really? Gunicorn. Because I always do this from the config file, not from here. So okay. Oh, isn't it like bind or something? Yep. There we go. Bring it back like this. And we're going to bind. What are we going to bind to? Port 8000, like that. Okay. Now gunicorn is a web server. Can I actually still curl that? Internal server error. What happened? Missing one required positional argument send. Now stuff starts to get crazy. Maybe FastAPI, it expects like an async web server, which is what uvicorn, I think, or whatever is going to be, not the sync one. So now it's like we need to rerun this with the that K flag from whatever docs we were looking at, like this thing. And will this work? Well, I don't know if I copied the K before. I did. Okay. So what about now? Okay, and we can see too, worker type, uvicorn worker. Now, do we get things working? Oh my God, it worked. Oh my God, it worked. Like, yay. That's way, didn't think it was going to be that straightforward. But now we've got the ability to use all of these command line flags in an actual config file. So let me go and just open up new config, whatever, init.py. Technically, I think optional Python 3.8, but gonna have it, why not? What do we need to do now? Gunicorn.py, drop in here, go to my gunicorn config file, copy this whole entire bad boy, bring it over here, boom, done, paste, done, and we're done. No, it's not gonna be that easy, but maybe. It actually is almost that easy. Like the only thing I need to do now is do whatever the heck. I have no idea what this is. Literally no idea, right? But this is the part that's going to need to change to basically do this instead. This now needs to be in config there. What else needs to be done? Let me copy this to here, bring this to here. Well, yeah, okay. So now I just need to know how to configure the -k option. First of all, what is the -k option? So gunicorn. I know it's like the worker type, duh, but I just want to see like if there's a full name for it. The full name usually is the config option name. So if we do K there, probably going to get, of course, 1,000 results. K, worker class. So worker class, it's probably going to be worker class. But can you actually just pass this in as a string? Or do you need to like import that class and then pass it in as like that? Worker class, okay. But that's the keys to the kingdom here. So gunicorn, worker class, config option, worker class. Yeah, and just pass in a string as a string. It doesn't say like an instance of a class. And all right, I'm gonna go string then. Okay. So that is saved like that. Then we need to go to our Dockerfile. Then we need to change the Dockerfile back to this. But this is going to be this instead of, nope, that stays the same. It's going to be this instead of that. And then I close that, kill that. No longer worried about that anymore. Well, we may end up doing that, but like if this doesn't work and I need to iterate on this commands a couple of times, then it's going to be faster doing it the other way. How long is this video? Of course it's an hour long, why not? But okay, let's see. Is it going to be up? Miraculously, it sort of maybe works. Double fist bump. Yes. Nice. Is it actually working though? I don't know. I'm going to have to, I'm suspicious because there's no way. What would I do to test this to make sure if it doesn't work? Yeah, I mean, this would be super easy, right? Just bring that to be 127.0.1. We'll need to rebuild. No, of course not, because there's Docker volumes. Yeah, we can see, look, 120.0.1. Oh man, this is really good. Okay. Yeah, reloading is all good. All these things are set up, access log. I think we are victorious. Well, I don't know what the deal with threads are now, because maybe this number needs to go up. Like, when you're using the default gunicorn worker type, which is like whatever it was, right? Not uvicorn. I'm pretty sure threads will always be 1 no matter what. But now that we're actually using uvicorn, is that like a thing that we can actually set now? Like, it doesn't need to be an environment variable. So yeah, but see, this is what I was expecting, like a gunicorn and then uvicorn here, but this is not a thing for some reason. Threads. Threads set it more on the gthread archetype used instead. Oh, okay. I didn't know that, but all right, let's do a search for uvicorn then. Uvicorn threads. Is that like an actual setting? I don't even think it was. No, there was like workers or whatever. Yeah, I guess threads is not a thing you need to think about because it's like an event loop or something, right? And I don't know, like lower level details that I shouldn't need to concern myself about, but should know in more detail. But again, like this is new to me. But yeah, it looks like it doesn't need a thread variable. So if that's the case, then just for consistency's sake, we should remove Python threads here as a value there. And I think this is pretty ready to commit. Action copy. What do I want to do? Copy that to env.example file because that really should now be a part of the repo. That wasn't there before. I guess we're pretty good, right? Like this was all good. Gunicorn. Yeah, putting uvicorn in brackets there. I don't even know if that's the best idea because like, let's just say miraculously that works, right? Can you actually do something like this and put like a version in there? I don't know, but Zenith Python, right? More explicit, the better. So this is working. I don't mind it. Now there's many other things I would like to do here as well, such as like adding a run script and like other stuff, but this video is already super long. That is not going to be like a major deal, right? It's like getting the run script in there, but the refactorings of what we wanted to do actually works. And I don't even know if there is a test suite. No, empty init file. Well, maybe there's something in there. No, there's not. Okay, so there is no test suite, but we tested it and it seems to all work. Let me just like one more sanity check and then I'll commit and push this stuff. But yeah, if I just up this again, can I curl things successfully? Everything ups. And it works. Yeah, so let me check out. Well, actually, let me get rid of this, get rid of that. Then we will do a get checkout, a new branch of feature, refactor Docker, feature refactor Docker. Yeah, what's going to be changed here? Get status. Well, lots of things are going to be changed. Well, I was going to slam it all on that one and then do a get diff cached on that. And here we can see everything that was changed because there's just too many things to do with get-add-p. So like, and this is why I love get-add-p and just checking your work before you actually do anything, because look at this nonsense, like unacceptable garbage. That needs to go away so fast. It also needs to change in the env example. But project name, this is also kind of weird. Like I don't want to use, like, can it just use the compose project name instead of like setting project name as that? Is that like a nice little enhancement that we can do? So like, for example, let's say project name is no longer here, right? Go to the example here, do that. Okay. So now it's like, well, the application expects project name to exist in the config file here. But what if, well, I'm getting crazy now. Is first of all, is project name like an actual FastAPI thing? I don't know. FastAPI project name. Best practices. That's always good. Best practices. Project name. But does it need to be named project name? Because if I can just make it named compose project name, like I want this project name to read from the environment variable compose project name, because I don't like the idea of having to put both project name and compose project name as the same value in the env file. And I mean, I'm just like throwing stuff at a wall. Is this going to work? Why can't I read from an environment variable? I don't know how. Get env. Okay. Too many languages in my mind right now. Get env, compose, project name. I don't know what the default would be, but like if this were to miraculously work, imagine that worked. I mean, there's no possible chance that's going to work. But if it did, it would be really, really nice. Maybe. Oh yeah, I need to import OS. Of course. Okay, import OS. Making use of the multicolor prompt there. Project name not set. Okay, that didn't work. It was worth a shot. I don't know why it doesn't work. I mean, I guess I don't know. It didn't work. What to do? Because, I mean, I would imagine, like, if I do this, and then we go to the other proj, wherever that was used, like over here, pretty sure that'll also work. But, like, what is a FastAPI title? Like, why do I even need to do that, right? Google FastAPI title. Like, what is this? Metadocs and docs title. Oh, it's probably going to be for the documentation of Open. Okay. So this is like, I'm not really API developer hardcore with like React frontends and stuff. So I'm not used to auto-generating documentation, but I understand that. That makes total sense. But it seems to me like it only cares like this is programming, right? Like it cares about the title. It doesn't care what this is, right? This could be named anything we want. So I have a feeling that's going to work. But let me go back to here in this env file, project name, Slackbot, env example, Slackbot. What am I doing? I think that's it then. Yeah, this now works, right? Maybe. Hey, does it actually work? Hello. And now speaking of OpenAPI specs, that'd be kind of cool. Like, first of all, yeah, millions of things open. This should bad method, right? Okay. So FastAPI, auto documentation, right? I want to see, is that something that just works? Because that'd be pretty cool. FastAPI docs, interactive docs. Yeah, docs. Hey, and it all actually works. Deploy shortcuts, cool. Like, hello, yeah, this is now out of the scope of this video, but everything is working, everything is good. Now I need to do another get add a, get diff cached, and then we will wrap this thing up. Yeah, we have a new dockerignore file, great. env stuff is all good there. What else? env example, yep, big changes here. Mostly just copy pasting, but I just noticed a couple things, right? Didn't address the secret key, didn't address that. Should we put this as part of this commit? I mean, not with bad instructions like that, but I don't know if the secret key and the env thing is an actual FastAPI thing. So in that case, I'm actually going to kill this off and deal with that. Also, yeah, and we're still dealing with gunicorn. I don't need to say like, oh, uvicorn, because it's still gunicorn now. Yeah, so that's going to go away, and here and here. No, it wasn't at the env file. Yeah, this one. There we go. Those go away. This stays the same. Server name. Well, server name is a Flask thing. Is that also like a FastAPI thing? I don't know. FastAPI server name. Is it like a config option somewhere? Server name domain. I don't know. Oh, getter. Okay, so like some All right, server name, domain for local dev, you probably want to do blah, blah, blah. Okay, server name, is it just an environment variable that you set and everything just works? I'd rather see that straight from their documentation, would be nice. Not a chat room message. I don't know. What's this? Server name string. Okay. I kind of like the idea of, is this like more like documentation now and not actual values? Oh, and then you can do string equals like that. Okay. See, and this is why reading the docs is pretty good, because I still have no idea exactly what I'm doing exactly, but it feels like this should now be a thing like this. And I wonder, as you're watching this video, if you just see like the neurons in my brain finally connecting like things, like maybe this is more of like a spec and not like actual values, but you can set a default value for when it's not defined. But no, we tried that. We put that in the env file and commented that, and it didn't work. But anyways, going back to here, it looks like you can set a type spec thing to be, well, they have a secret key. And then there's like the default value. But how, okay, this is starting to look to be like, this is now FastAPI related changes. So, well, okay. I'm going to do this. Bring this over here. Basically paste that in, get rid of the equals there, because I don't know, this is like alien syntax to me, right? So if I do string equals like this, that all works, right? And if I still up that, technically should work. Server name, field required. I know why, because it's commented out in the env file, but it should default to something. So let's default it to localhost port 8000 as the fallback, just like that. I mean, that pattern makes sense. It's just different of how I do it with Flask. Because if I go to Flask in my config file here, settings, you know, these are all just config values. Like you have a secret key that needs to be set, and then you have something like the server name. But it's more than just localhost port 8000. It's actually localhost port 8000 and then grabbing the port env so there's less duplication. All right, let me do that. But first, let me actually see if that worked. Okay, that worked. Can I actually curl this still? I'm going to do that from here. Fine, let me just see. Curl, cool, okay. Yeah, so it could also be probably an f string now too, because I did this mainly to make it fit on a line, a little bit easier to read also. But yeah, okay. So that goes away, this goes here. What am I doing? I'm not doing that. I just want some breathing room. You know, like if you're in surgery, you want, as if like a surgeon, but you would want to have like isolation, right? They always put like some cloth over the area and cut out like a square. Like I don't want to have, yeah, that's basically this effect. Yeah, so I just drop this in here. And as long as this fits over under 80 characters, we're good. So that, and because I could put this into an f string, but just, oh, missing parenthesis. But this just looks like, I don't want to put that inside of there, right? Because it's like, just looks weirder, right? This is one case where using format ends up being a little bit more readable. But now this should actually work because I don't have server name in my env because it's commented out, and now it should default to the correct values, and yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. And you know, if I wanted to go into the real env file and set a server name, let's actually see if this works, right? Let's do port 9000, and that's gonna, you know, maybe up. I'm not gonna be able to access it, but because the port forwarding, whatever. But okay, look, it actually didn't work. So that is probably a good thing. No, it did work, but it still shows 8000 because the gunicorn config file is related to that here. Okay, but it technically worked in the sense that like it didn't not work. I don't know. I'm feeling that's a little bit ahead of myself, but like to expect that, hey, it actually works when I really don't know. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot for me to learn with FastAPI, but I want to see what he's using for the secret key before I wrap this up. So what is this actually being used throughout the project? Secret key. This is FastAPI, right? Full stack, this secret key. Okay, setting secret key for encoding JSON. Okay, so for token stuff. I don't know. I don't see anything for sessions or whatever. This all seems to be related to tokens. But I wouldn't want to generate a new one. So it's like secret key is something I'm going to be dealing with later when we actually need to use it. And it's going to follow the pattern of that, but not generate a default one. It'll just be like an explicit, you need to set it. Otherwise you get a validation error. So this must be some type of spec like a validation schema in Marshmallow or something. Yeah, because you can do a custom validator too. Okay, I don't think I understand it fully, but I think I understand it. But that's enough to do git add a, git diff cached. And yeah, so now compose project, Python, write bytes, server name, cool. All that stuff is good. Commented out, Redis, Celery, Postgres may come back later. All the help check is good. Yep, there's the volume. Saw something out of date there. This path for the public needs to be the temp one now. Needs to be that. And then temp, because we made that change before, like 75 hours ago in this compose YAML file up here. Yeah. I kind of don't like committing code with comments, but this is one case where I can make a case for that because it's like they're coming back, but just not right now. Let me also add that and then cache that and then page down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So back to business there. There's our new gitignore file. That's a little bit nicer. Override YAML file. Don't think we're going to have one in there. I'll just get rid of it because we're really not going to have that anywhere. Okay. Git add a, cache there, okay. Yeah, so that's good. Yep. There's a gitignore stuff, like our file, a little bit cleaner in my opinion, but there's a lot of changes there. Hopefully we're almost done. All right. Okay, cool. Now, other changes, yes, Dockerfile, totally rewrote that from scratch there. Yep, Lexa, you can always write your own name there too. We'll do like multiple maintainers because I don't want to show your email on video, even though it's probably in your GitHub profile or whatever, but yeah. Okay, that's good. There's nothing crazy on the bottom of that file. This looks pretty good. Yep. Well, actually, I should probably do hello world just so it matches what it was before. Where was that? API, something, deploy shortcuts. Here, yes. Technically, all right, let me add a. And then cached, and then way down here. Okay, pretty close to where it was before. Yeah, so there's the new spec stuff that we added here, technically spec stuff. Yeah, remove the env file. Don't need to, right? Because Docker is loading it in through the env file from Docker, so the environment variables are there. Nice. So then that's now compose project name. Cool. And then we have the empty entry point. And then we have the new pip install script. Then we have the gunicorn config stuff. Got rid of their entire compose file. And I think that might have been it. No, a little bit stuff here. Yeah. More exact matching on the version numbers and using the latest of everything we need. So that is that. Now the commit message. Let's see. Like, change a lot of things related to Docker. Like, and use best practices for Docker is so like conceited type of thing to say. But it is like, I don't know, rewrite Docker, no. I mean, it's like refactor Docker related files, kinda, right? Yeah. So then git push origin feature, refactor Docker. Do I even have push actually? I do. Yeah, and then like merging this on GitHub. Gonna do that outside the video because, yeah. Well, I guess technically it doesn't matter. Why not do it here? Well, no, because I'm not signed into GitHub on my Firefox account. But anyways, like that's, really easy. Basically click 2 buttons on GitHub and we're done. But yeah, I mean, that's a really long video, hour, 20 minutes on, yeah, just basically working with new technology, just having some fun, messing around with Docker, getting things to work. And hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer any questions about whatever I can. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up because it helps a lot. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next video.